Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome to another match in round two of the public sector debate competition. A very special hello to those of joining us on our social media platform, YouTube. I am Tamika Gunmighty, Communication Specialist within the Transformation Implementation Unit. Today, we have 12 teams competing to advance to the quarterfinals. We are currently joined by the Victoria Jubilee Hospital and the Passport Immigration and Citizenship Agency, and they will be debating the moot. Jamaica's cultural and creative industries have been estimated to generate 2.2 billion Jamaican dollars annually. Be it resolved that the government of Jamaica should take the lead in doing more to leverage Brand Jamaica. I will first invite Team Proposition to introduce themselves.
Is Deandra Facey. I'm the first speaker for the Victoria Jubilee Hospital.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Desiree Denton Sadler, and I am the second speaker, or will be.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lillian Lewis MacDonald, third speaker.
Thank you so very much. Victoria Jubilee, now we invite the opposition to introduce themselves.
I am Kauna Mackenzie, first speaker.
Sasha Wedderburn, second speaker.
Molly Plummer, third speaker.
Thank you so very much. Once again, our adjudicators for today's match are our partners from the Jamaica Association for Debating and Empowerment Limited, JADE. Judges, could you please introduce yourselves?
Thank you. My name is Cleveland Tomlinson. I'm one of the chief adjudicators for the competition, and I'll be the chair judge for today's match.
My name is Ronaldo Blake, and I'll be a panelist for this match.
Hi, my name is Damario Patterson, and I'm the third adjudicator for this match.
Thank you so very much, judges. Teams are familiar with the rules, so let the debate begin. Over to you, judges. All the best, teams.
Thank you, Tamika, for beautifully opening for us. Please be reminded of the speaking times. Ideally, we would have a bell that would ring when 1 minute has passed or when we're indicating in different time periods. However, we don't have that device with us, so we will resort to the original method, which is not ideal, but hopefully can serve for this, where we will clap. So at the end of 1 minute, we will clap, which indicates that 1 minute has passed and points of information can be asked of the speaker on the floor. Similarly, when the speaker enters his or her final minute, we will clap again, indicating that no more points of information can be asked of that speaker. When the speaker's allotted time has elapsed, we will clap 2 times, indicating that time has ended. However, we will allow you 15 seconds to complete your thought, and then I will ask you to cease. All right? So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we will have 8 minutes on the clock for the first proposition speaker.
Good afternoon, judges, distinguished leaders, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 45th inaugural meeting of CARICOM States. Jamaica's creative culture industry, CCIs, has been estimated at 2.2 billion annually. Be it resolved that the Jamaican government should take the lead in doing more to leverage Brand Jamaica. We, the key stakeholders, wish to define the terms and phrases in this project, that being 1, to take the lead, 2, leverage, 3, Brand Jamaica, and 4, government. According to the Free Dictionary, to take the lead means to take primary responsibility. According to the Universal Marketing Dictionary, leverage means to add weight, strength, clout, and pull to a matter. According to the Journal of Place Branding and Public Policy, Brand Jamaica is Jamaica's identity, image, and reputation. According to the Oxford Dictionary, a government is defined as a group of people with the power and authority to govern a set of people, state, or country. The moot is then redefined. Be it resolved that the people of Jamaica with authority to govern should be primarily responsible for adding strength, weight, and pull to Jamaica's identity, image, and reputation. As first speaker, I will be addressing Jamaica's unified brand identity. The second speaker will address Jamaica's brand image for economic growth, and third speaker will address the social implications of the brand reputation, all through a governmental lead. There are currently 17 sectors within our CCIs. As a government, we will be coalescing these 17 sectors into 3 major categories. 1, music and craft. 2, digital and media. 3, film, culinary arts. Under one brand, Jamaica, a creative culture. This will be done through the mobilization of 10 governmental agencies and 4 universities of higher education. This unified national brand, Jamaica, a creative culture, will focus heavily on social inclusion, equal opportunity of partnerships for both public and private, and also create a unified external image for Jamaica. Mr. Speaker, a unified national brand will reduce mismanagement of Jamaica's cultural products by private stakeholders. As is, Brand Jamaica is heavily influenced by the private sector, similar to that of a monopoly. The average Jamaican citizen does not have equal access in opportunity or knowledge of the entrance points needed. As so, to solve this issue, the government will be moving forward to reform all policies impacting the national culture, right? To reflect the current brand identity, which is unified, doing away with the fragmentization that currently exists within the sector. Through this mobilization of internal departments, the system will see better framework for development, management, focusing more on equity of access through community business and self-identification. An example of such a policy under the reformation can be all products and services that are advertised with the label made in Jamaica or associated with this label must be registered, and all royalties based on these products and services paid to the government annually. This renewed identification of the products, registration of the products, will provide the data necessary for the government to implement future planning strategies to improve our CCIs. Through these governmental agencies, the foundation, the infrastructure will be developed in order to improve Jamaica's brand identity, its use, management, and the propensity of the brand image. A national brand that is unified will help to reduce misappropriation of the national brand by citizens and non-nationals. It is necessary for Jamaica to claim ownership and identification of its varied cultural products, not just some, but all. For example, reggae music should be identified as a part of Jamaica's national identity. This will add strength through association to the nation as a whole, not artists, not companies, not recording production studios, but Jamaica as a whole externally. An example of this misappropriation of our cultural products is seen in the recent Grammy Awards, where the best album for the album and best reggae artist was given to non-nationals who have leveraged our cultural product as their own. It was also done in 1987 by the Steel Pulse Band, which was British. Sting, a British artist, a non-national, also leveraged our cultural product. Through identification and association with a unified national brand, the government will now gain recognition. The Jamaican people as a nation will gain recognition as authentic owners of content. Secondary use can then be allotted to non-nationals that will bring increased external partnerships, whether through registration with the government, with private or public sector bodies externally, which will increase the earning potential for the government, increase the identification of Jamaica with its cultural products as our own. We must claim what is ours as ours first, then anyone else can ask to use. And if we're so nice and it suits us best, we can allow them to use it. A unified national brand will create a positive balance to Jamaica's negative perception externally. According to the positive reinforcement sensitivity theory, perception has a direct impact on cultural lives and influences day-to-day interaction for citizens. An example of this negative perception is that it is known Jamaica is the most dangerous place in the Caribbean and Latin America, according to the Statistical Research Department. Jamaica is also known or perceived to be the coolest people in the Caribbean. Everybody wants to be Jamaican. When they say and they hear your accent abroad, they will say, "Are you from Jamaica?" We have some of the most beautiful beaches and are perceived as an ideal tourist destination. If, Mr. Speaker, heads of government, we were to amplify the positive outcomes of our CCIs, then we can directly impact the lives of our citizens through improving their behavior. We can reduce antisocial trends that are in our population, thereby reducing these actions and activities that promote crime and violence. Now, Mr. Speaker, when you think about it, we must first identify what is our own. We register what is our own. We monetize what is our own. We promote interdepartmental approaches, collaborative systems through our learned persons that are working in the system under a national policy. Mr. Speaker, I'm simply saying this. In order to change our perception of CCIs, in order for the nation's perception to be changed, for it to be leveraged, the government must take on that role. We must bet on our people, because one thing we are known for, Jamaicans don't finish last. The government is betting on the people that if we reinvest, identify, monetize, and change perception, we will come first. Our CCIs will grow. It will be amplified. Then we will be better able to know what it is we have, leverage it, and it will change the face of Jamaica externally. I thank you.
Thank you, First Proposition, for your contribution. And we will take the contribution from the first opposition speaker.
I like the fact that you said we must bet on our people and not the government. Honorable adjudicators, heroines from the Victoria Jubilee Hospital, guests, and my sagacious colleagues, good afternoon. My teammates and I stand in firm opposition of the moot. Be it resolved that the Government of Jamaica should take the lead in doing more to leverage Brand Jamaica. Let me first start by saying that my teammates and I concur that the government should play an important role in help leveraging Brand Jamaica. We're not going to debate this. Brand Jamaica ought to be harnessed, safeguarded, and disseminated across the global stage with robust returns that would ultimately contribute to the improvement of our fellow citizens' standard of living. The government have made remarkable strides to leverage Brand Jamaica. Credit must be given. For example, in June 2021, the Government of Jamaica provided greater safeguards to protect Brand Jamaica in the international marketplace when it successfully amended the Trademarks Act of 1994. Amendments to Section 12 of this law limited the use of the name Jamaica, restricted the use of Jamaica's national symbols, whether our coat of arms, Jamaican flag, map, national colors, and other emblems, unless the registrar at the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office authorizes with specific conditions each request. Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports, the Honorable Olivia Babsy-Grange, spoke excitedly about this achievement to better leverage Brand Jamaica. Notwithstanding, it took the government 27 years for us to get here. 27 years. And you, my worthy opponent, are asking the government to take the lead in doing more to leverage Brand Jamaica after 27 years of us just getting here? Despite these sincere efforts, Brand Jamaica has to contend with the reality of the Government of Jamaica cannot cross it. Though Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, noted that the government made significant investments to monetize and upgrade Brand Jamaica on its economic benefit and value, it takes more than the government's leadership for Brand Jamaica to be protected. harnessed, expanded,
Point
and
of information.
monetized. Not right now. And in fact, the government's leadership of leveraging has not been effective. And instead of adding more responsibility to a failing stakeholder, I urge us, honorable judges, to instead be pragmatic and prudent in strategizing and assessing and assigning roles based instead on established records of success. The truth is there are far more positive fiduciary outcomes for relying less on government, as our opponents pointed in their last debate against TPDCO. Furthermore, given the point made by the proposition just 2 weeks ago in their last debate, that the public's confidence in the government is abysmally low, a legitimate discussion can be had on whether the government of Jamaica
Point of information.
can be trusted, not now, even manage the Jamaican Intellectual Property Office. Ms. Price vehemently heralded that given the preponderance of bribes that permeates government spaces, Jamaicans have very low consumer confidence. But legally, politically, economically, realistically, and practically, as well as in the context of our geopolitical and historical milieu, what else can the government do to leverage Brand Jamaica? Another angle to this moot is its preamble. The preface notes that Jamaica's cultural and creative industries, CCIs, have been estimated to generate Jamaica $2.2 billion annually. We can't debate the moot without adequate attention being given to the premise. So, if my opponents are claiming that the government should take the lead in leveraging more financially beyond the existing Jamaican $2.2 billion annual income, they must have some estimate for the government's contribution to revenue. So my worthy opponents, what percentage of this $2.2 billion can be credibly and directly attributed to the efforts of the Jamaican government? This is your proposition. So give us the compelling evidence that undeniably illustrates not just a correlation, but instead evidence that the government's efforts directly had a positive effect on the Jamaican $2.2 billion annual income from CCIs. Until you can do that, your argument is essentially pedantic and just pure wishful thinking. No serious government can run on those virtues. Ladies and gentlemen, the issue of Brand Jamaica is more than just the brand itself. Brand Jamaica is experiencing an internal threat from within. From far as the 1970s, we constantly hear about the various permutations of Brand Jamaica, whether it be buy locally, buy Jamaica, or grow what we eat what we grow. But because of our fellow residents' foreign appetites, there are more basketball courts than cricket pitches, higher viewership for cable television than local media, and longer lines at KFC than at Juicy Beef. In addition to the lack of consistency and considerable gaps in data available, as cited by the Jamaican Business Development Corporation, our CCIs are also significantly challenged by a horde of socio-economic misfortunes that threaten the viability and sustainability of Brand Jamaica, all while deterring worthwhile investors. Not now. I close by reiterating that it is the organic intentions and activities of the Jamaican people who have taken the lead to leverage the Brand Jamaica. The first speaker of the opposition rests.
Thank you, first opposition speaker. And we invite the second proposition speaker to present her contribution.
Good afternoon, honorable judges, ladies and gentlemen. Madam First Speaker, well said. You asked a question about the percentage of government's contribution. May not be able to give you the percentage, but I can tell you that the government contributed $3.9 billion to the tourism sector, created TPDCO to focus specifically on using tourism to enhance our brand, and in so doing, the tourism sector is the largest income-earning sector in Jamaica. That's what the government has done. Now you're saying we took 27 years to get here? Yes, we took 27 years because the government has been working on the nation brand. So is it because we took 27 years the government shouldn't do any more? We should just sit back and relax? I highly disagree. So I will be focusing this afternoon on improving brand image for economic growth by showing that it is in the government's best interest to take the lead in leveraging Brand Jamaica. I will also show that when governments take the lead in leveraging their nation's brands, the countries reap significant economic benefits. Now, a 2013 article entitled Beyond the Nation Brand, the Role of Image and Identity in International Relations.
Point of information.
Simon Anholt, just a moment, let me finish. Simon Anholt posits that one of government's primary responsibilities is to trade the country's good image to achieve success in the global marketplace. Go ahead with your point.
Since the Jamaican government has never done what you're proposing before, we're assuming there must be an example of at least one country that has led the leveraging of CSCIs.
Absolutely. I'll get to it. Now I'll continue. Now, Arnold also posits that developing countries that depend on foreign aid, such as Jamaica, cannot afford to portray a weak or negative image. So, because this will soon result or could soon result in cessation of this aid. So where does Jamaica stand in terms of its image? I'll tell you, currently, our brand image is both weak and largely negative. The nation's brand index, Mr. Speaker, it measures countries' image and their reputation around the world and then posts a list of countries that have good images. Jamaica has never made that list. Largely, the report says, because of its image of being among the world's worst crime-riddled nations. Now, to improve our image, the government must take the lead and do more so that the beauty of our nation can outshine the negative aspects of it, thereby putting us at the forefront of the global market. Let me use South Korea as an example of how this has worked. Now, before 2002, South Korea's image was that of a war-torn nation, much like Jamaica's image today of being a crime-riddled nation. Now, the government took the lead in 2002 of South Korea to do more to leverage their brand by using their campaign, Korea Sparkling. Now, in doing so, they started hosting international events, such as the FIFA World Cup. Now, during these international events, the country's culture, their economy, and their tourism industry were highlighted. This resulted in a complete transformation of the country's image. So instead of being seen as a war-torn nation, they were now seen as the technology and pop culture hub of the world, right? And
Point of information.
That, let me just finish this point. Because of that, South Korea's economy grew significantly. Go right ahead.
Question. Given the existing competing priorities that the government has on its budget, what budget line do you recommend that we cut in order to go ahead and leverage?
I am not going to recommend that we cut any budget line. What I'm recommending is that the government take the lead in ensuring that all stakeholders come together so that everybody benefits from our nation branding efforts. I'm continuing. In the same way that South Korea benefited from this effort, the Jamaican economy could grow if our government would take the lead in doing more to leverage our brand, using, for example, Jamaicans' arts and crafts, or natural attractions on our cultural heritage sites. Mr. Speaker, the tourism industry is the largest income-earning industry in Jamaica. And one of the attractions to our tourists is the crafts that we sell in our crafts markets. However, in a Jamaica Gleaner article, entitled Tourism Minister Really Embarrassed by a Foreign Product in Jamaican Craft Markets, we read that most of the crafts sold in our markets are not even made in Jamaica. Therefore, the government can take the lead to do more in leveraging our brand in this regard by training persons to create art pieces. They can then exhibit these pieces at cultural events, tourism events, and then they can provide an opportunity for these pieces to be exported. This would attract more foreign currency into the country and would result in our brand image being improved. It will also increase economic activities in the country and ultimately increase our GDP.
Point of information.
Just hold it for me. No. There has long been calls for Kingston to be rebranded as from being the crime capital of the country to the city that reflects the culture, heritage, and the beautiful infrastructure of Jamaica. In a 2018 Observer article titled Invested in Re-Imaging Kingston, Stephen Facey, who's the chairman and CEO of Pan he said, and I quote, "We must realize that the city has the resources and attributes to be great. All the ingredients to bake the cake, but we need an approved recipe and a visionary chef." End quote. Mr. Speaker, I put it to you this afternoon that that visionary chef must be the government of Jamaica, because all the other chefs, all the other stakeholders in this kitchen will use their own recipes to excite the taste buds of their specific clientele. On the other hand, the government's clientele is everybody, all stakeholders, private sector, public sector, media, citizens, and everybody alike. So everybody stands to benefit from the government taking the lead in this regard. Go right ahead.
How do you imagine the Jamaican government penalizing local and international offenders for breaching their copyright and patenting laws, including the countries that Jamaica has no extradition agreement with?
My dear, we're not here to talk about policies that we're planning to make. I'm telling you that based on our cultural and creative industries, the government can do more to leverage Jamaica's brand. I will continue then. My second point is that history has shown that where government has taken the lead in leveraging their nation's brands, these countries have seen significant economic benefits. So this sets the tone already for our government to learn from these examples. Nation branding is not an individual effort. It is a complex process, and it involves multiple stakeholders. So the government must take the lead so that all stakeholders can come together. For example, China, when their government took the lead in 2015, their GDP was 11.6 trillion US dollars. But in that year, the government took the lead in their branding effort using Made in China, resulting in a 53% increase in the GDP. No, Mr. Speaker, Dr. Henry Morgan says that Jamaica's brand is now worth between 33 and 35 billion US dollars. Unfortunately, we lose about $20 billion of our economic value every year from our brand. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that we lose this money because it's as a result of the government not taking the lead to do more. What I will tell you is that the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy lists the reasons why brands lose economically. These reasons include political instability, high crime rates, natural disasters, economic challenges, and negative media coverage. Jamaica is experiencing all of these. Now, with that established, who do you say my opponents should take the lead to make sure that we're not affected negatively? It has to be the government of Jamaica. I thank you.
Thank you, second proposition speaker. And we will now hear the contribution from the second opposition speaker.
My worthy opponents, how can we leverage without policies and legislation? And how can the government penalize China and India with their 1 billion population when they breach the trademark and patenting rights, as you spoke about earlier? Ladies and gentlemen, I stand here today to open the eyes of my opponents to understand that, one, it is the efforts of the government and individuals such as Bob Marley and Usain Bolt that have allowed Jamaica's CCIs to be generating an estimated $2.2 billion annually. And two, there is no need for the government to take the lead and do more to leverage Brand Jamaica. My opponents, I put it to you that until the government successfully tackles the monster of crime and violence, poor literacy rates, and an inadequately resourced health sector, until the government successfully addresses these ills, then Brand Jamaica cannot and should not be their central focus. On the contrary, it is the private sector that needs to take the lead. It is the private sector that has the competitive and the comparative advantage. Simply put, the private sector has the financial and human resources, the know-how, the technology needed to leverage Brand Jamaica. Indeed, it is individual marketing campaigns that promote Brand Jamaica and determine the authenticity, personality, and perception of the brand. It is the private sector that has the competitive and comparative advantage. A pertinent example is the Sandals Hotel Group. Sandals, in building and marketing its own name, has effectively marketed and sold Brand Jamaica to countries far and wide. This wholesale marketing would have cost the government a tidy sum, and that which we cannot afford at this time. Additionally, the Jamaica Gleaner article titled Bob Marley's Exodus, published on July 29, 2007, highlighted that Time
Point of
magazine,
information.
not right now, highlighted that Time magazine had voted that same album the album of the century, and almost simultaneously, the BBC had selected Marley's song One Love as the song of the century. Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Marley has built and pushed the brand further than any Jamaican government could in the last several decades. The iconic One Love song of the century is still recognized among the best today. My opponents, since our independence, the nation's CCIs have, through thick and thin, been one of the leading exponents in promoting Jamaica, an effort which has placed Brand Jamaica up front and center on the international scene. Learned opponents, and a political act, and not the coke nor the crack, a reggae put Jamaica on top. Secondly, CCIs have been estimated to have brought in more than $2.2 billion.
Point of information.
But how could we not talk about that huge threat of piracy? Go ahead with the point of information.
Regarding your point about the Sandals ad, are you aware that Sandals advertisements are as a result of TPDCO, which was created by the government in 1996 to enhance our brand through tourism?
We are aware, but also the funding was from Sandals Group and not from the government. The government's attempt at regulating this has fallen woefully short. We have many creative entertainers in Jamaica whose own branding has contributed significantly to Brand Jamaica. Despite their hard work in the studio, on sets, and on stage, our ardent working entertainers are challenged financially because of the internal threat to the brand in the form of local piracy. How many of our people listen to Beanie Man, Movada, Bounty Killer, just to name a few? Yet, how many of us can truly claim to have bought any of their singles, not to mention their entire albums? The local freeness mentality and citizens' inability to buy Brand Jamaica in this and other forms poses a serious threat to our beloved Brand Jamaica. In a December 28, 2022 Bloomberg News article entitled "The Global Creative Economy is Big Business," University of Toronto professor Dr. Richard Florida referenced a UNESCO report that concluded that the rise in piracy, example, illegal streaming and file sharing services, has not only hit hard at legitimate distribution services, but at the talented artists and innovators who drive the global creative economy. According to its data, piracy robs the United States of 71,000 jobs annually, in addition to $12.5 billion in economic losses. The irony of all this, ladies and gentlemen, is though the Jamaican government led the effort to leverage Brand Jamaica through legislations, those have proven to be an exercise in futility. My opponents, the government has recently established laws for patenting, copywriting, and branding to protect the industry. How much can it really regulate? As with the pervasive internet, any man, woman, boy, or girl can now access and illegally download books, articles, songs, movies, and other motion pictures from the privacy of their home, on the bus, at work, in their cars, on vacation, just about anywhere. Even if the government were to continue leading this initiative, what resources do we have in place to effectively regulate Jamaica's CCIs? And what sanctions can they inflict on offenders? Simply put, ladies and gentlemen, the government just cannot cross it. My friends, Brand Jamaica is thriving, contrary to what you believe. And where it has fallen short has not been for want of additional leveraging by government, but because of the plethora of socio-economic problems plaguing the island. The government has been working hard. They are doing some things right, but they need to focus and use their resources in the best way possible. My opponents, I leave you to think on these things.
Thank you, second opposition speaker. We will take at this time the contribution from the third proposition speaker.
Honorable judges, my opponents, thank you. First speaker, you spoke about the government, the people. Remember that the government are the people, right? So it's one and the same. Now, can you imagine 27 years to reach that spot? If the government can do more, it will not take such a long span for us to achieve what we need to achieve. Remember what we are saying. We're not saying that the government is not doing. We're saying that the government needs to do more. And we are proposing that where there's a unified national effort, then Brand Jamaica will become the place. All right? We don't need, you ask about where the funds are going to come from. In the budget, there's a $133 billion on the other. We're going to use 10 billion of that, just a measly 10 million of that, with a collaborative effort to effect these changes. Now, are you saying that our government has no jurisdiction over the private sector? I hope that's not what you're saying. Government has ensured that the copyright is improved, and we're just saying that they need to do more. Are you also saying, my speaker, that if we never had Usain Bolt and Bob Marley, we would not have a brand? I hope that's not what you're saying. We, the proposers, are resolute in stating that a group of people with the authority to govern Jamaica should be primarily responsible for adding strength, weight, clout, or pull to Jamaica's identity, image, and reputation, both domestically and internationally. Our reputation, I'll take it later, our reputation is important, and we posit that we need to invest in and make positive steps and get serious about portraying Jamaica as a place to work, of choice to work, to live, raise families, and do business. This will then become infectious and will change how we are viewed in the region and the world by large. Imagine with me how awesome it would be if when you spoke about Bob Marley, when we visit other countries and they see us, they're like, yes, this is the place where people come from who have top music, top dance, top runners, top culture. This is what we are saying, not to mention how persons from other countries would be clamoring to come to us. We can effect this by the government leading this charge, incentivizing businesses, communities, and individuals who will promote our Jamaicanness through education, culture, and whatever they do. So when we come together and they're incentivized, then it's all of us going to be pulling together, so the government alone won't be shadowing or bearing all of that burden. Re-socialization from our early childhood level up to our secondary level would increase our cultural awareness. This could support diversification of infrastructure, of instructions rather, thereby maximizing our education delivery. Can you imagine how much learning would improve when we include more creative arts into our educational programs? Should students are going to be even more interested in learning. We would see them using SCIA, for example, in learning the trigonometry, right? And they'll be excited about learning. Recently, my daughter had to create a skit to depict the knowledge gained about dance all in her SBA or English SBA. She went all out, she dressed the part, she enjoyed herself as she delivered her skit. What if we boosted our reputation through our students, the CXC IAs and the CAPE IAs and the SBAs, when we task them to creatively demonstrate what Jamaica is? Can you imagine how our brand would have increased? Not to mention that through competition, how much the reduction in conflicts would be evident. So crime would be on a low. Children would be more interested in expressing their creative prowess and less fighting it out. As Jamaicans, we are very talented. The skills trained in the culinary creations can serve as a means of economic gain for individuals and the country by large. So we're not dealing with individuals, we're talking about the entire Jamaica. Our exports would increase, our GDP would increase, while we're concretizing our culture and our reputation. Our children have become so Americanized. Can you imagine? We used to use boxes and so on to create little trucks outside. Now the social media can be utilized to project through our students what Jamaica is. And we're just saying that our government must take the lead. They have been doing, but we want them to do more. What benefits would we reap from having a cultural center in every parish of our country to display all of what we have Jamaica? Our national cultural policy even speaks to that. I bet you didn't even know that we have a national cultural policy. It indicated that US billions, are out there, and Jamaica was not even able to get it. And this is because we have not trademarked us. So when we trademark Jamaica, indeed our brand will increase. I rest my case.
Thank you, third proposition speaker. And at this time, we'll take the contribution from the third opposition speaker. Followed by that, we will pause for 1 minute to allow the reply speakers to gather their thoughts. Then we will take the opposition reply speaker, followed by the proposition reply speaker. So 5 minutes on the clock.
My learned opponents, you continue to talk about ways that the government can help to leverage. We agree with that point. However, that's not the mood. Instead, we're debating whether the government of Jamaica, not private enterprises, not local government, but whether the Jamaican government should lead the leveraging of Brand Jamaica. Also, just to educate you, Madam Third Speaker, from the proposition, the government is a representation of the people. They are not the people. To all those within the ambit of my voice, greetings. The proposition has the temerity and the gall to stand here and frivolously distort their malleable record as if we're gullible sticks and stones. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine, after berating the Jamaican government for their incompetence just 2 weeks ago, the proposition wants to give the same government they labeled as incompetent in their debate against TPD-Co additional responsibility of leveraging Brand Jamaica. Honorable judges, is the same team that also spoke passionately about levels of corruption in government, as well as Jamaicans' low confidence in their government. Yet still they want to now claim that this same government is all of a sudden best positioned to lead the leveraging of Jamaica CCIs. No Sankey, no sing so. Now as we talk about lead to leverage Brand Jamaica, let us consider how our government has contributed to the existing Jamaica 2.2 billion annual revenue that my first speaker alluded to. This is you proposing the moot. So it is reasonable expectation to you to at least show us the receipt of your research in these findings. The truth is, our team is not a group of dogmatic ideologues. We will willingly agree when you show us the figures. As you have seen, we are very reasonable, and we will even highlight to you the work of Minister Ed Bartlett. Regardless of our political party affiliation, Minister Bartlett for many years has been the face of Jamaica tourism, and he has worked assiduously with the Jamaica Tourist Board and other overseas stakeholders for Jamaica to be an ideal place of vacation. But with due respect to Minister Bartlett, leadership of leveraging Brand Jamaica is far bigger than him. And in spite of his great work and his initiative, even the number of visitors annually is unpredictable because of other factors like our high crime rate. Additionally, Jamaica CCI is far more than just sand and beach. It includes our poetry, songs, fashion, to name many others. All of these constructs remain beautiful, but the ugly face of crime is a curse to Brand Jamaica's further success.
Point of
Our
information.
team, not now, our team maintains, honorable judges, that leadership to leverage Brand Jamaica is not the issue. Everyone world over is in love with everything Jamaica, including our accents, with a syncopated rhythm and multiplicity of dances that are introduced to the world daily, whether flary, willy bounce, bogo, butterfly, to name a few. Jamaica's attractive CCI has attention of everyone far and near, but those who are here anxiously look forward to get a visa to leave out of here, and those who are far often choose to love Jamaica from abroad.
Point of
This is simply
information.
because, not now, this is simply because fear and trepidation that takes precedence over a desire to experience our amazing, delectable cuisine. In an effort to better convince our proposition, we will even use a metaphorical scenario that is within your professional intelligence. The opposition prognosis is that the proposition is acutely aware of the dangers of treating illness with wrong prescription because of misdiagnosis. Consequently, we imagine if a pregnant woman comes to Victoria Jubilee Hospital with symptoms of gestational diabetes, but misdiagnosed and subsequently treated with preeclampsia medication, the consequence would be medically disastrous and legally catastrophic. Similarly, with regard to leveraging Jamaica CCI, let us not speculate that a vacuum in leadership is reason for underperformance with regard to revenues.
Point of information.
Jamaica, that will be answered in the reply. Jamaica CCI is still very attractive, but only ugly crime rate is an anthema to be effective leveraging to Brand Jamaica. In closing, the syllogism that the proposition exposed 2 weeks ago was robustly predicated on the ineptitude of the Jamaican government. Throughout their debate against CPDCO, they postulated that the government is too corrupt and efficient to be trusted. Yet today they are saying the opposite. Ladies and gentlemen, this is duplicity. The proposition cannot be trusted. I rest my case.
Thank you, third opposition speaker. We will now pause for 1 minute. One minute has elapsed, and with that, we will invite the opposition reply speaker for 3 minutes on the clock.
Let's get the definition of government correct. The government is an elected body by the people of Jamaica to make decisions and handle the administration of the country. So let's get it correct. We, the opposition, are not suggesting that the government should be excluded from the process. Instead, we are debating that the government should not take the lead in leveraging our CCIs. Please, let us stick to the moot. The opposition has in no way articulated that the Jamaican government has not done its part in contributing to Brand Jamaica, nor have we suggested that the government has not made an effort to leverage the Brand Jamaica. If we did, we would have been disingenuous. We would have been dishonest in making such suggestion. Instead, what we are arguing is despite their good intentions and sincere efforts, the leveraging of Brand Jamaica has been left wanting. Let us carefully peruse who the preposition is proposing should take leadership of leveraging Brand Jamaica. They are asking our Jamaican government, the same government that despite their supermajority has not made patois a formal English. This same government that has held on to the ties with the antiquated relic of the British monarchy as a Commonwealth country. This same government that has continued to hold on to a European dress code in Parliament. Do you remember those and its close ties to our Jamaican government? This is the same government that is the custodian of over a very low literacy rate, high crime rate, double-digit unemployment, and high corruption index. Unequivocally, the government can legislate policies and make recommendations, but we have to take personal responsibility as a people to buy and promote Brand Jamaica. Colleagues, let us all agree that the government has an obligation to create the condition and platform for CCIs and other industries to flourish, but not to lead the leveraging of Brand Jamaica.
Thank you, Opposition Reply Speaker. And at this time, we will take the final speaker in the debate, the Proposition Reply Speaker.
Good afternoon again, judges. Just a bit of reality orientation for my learned opponents. Now, our definition for government that we provided came from the Oxford Dictionary, which states, a government is a group of people with power and authority to govern a set of people, country, or state. They do say that they have the legitimate right, which we agree. Therefore, they should. I say this again. Should does not mean that they have not. We're saying should means that they should make more efforts. They have set the foundation. Now we, as the government, must amplify that foundation. Our opponents spoke about our organic products that we have here. They spoke about individuals and corporations like Sandals and Bob Marley and Usain Bolt and how the absence of them would cause this and that and all types of drama. We're simply saying that as the government taking the lead, we will move away from this fragmented approach. It's no longer personal, corporation-wise, but as a nation under a unified brand, not under Sandals, not under Usain Bolt, not under any other individual, but as a nation, leveraging our cultural identities, our CCIs, amplifying them, that we are going to gain national, right, image, reputation, and identity for all stakeholders. You spoke about crime and illiteracy rates. Jamaica has one of the highest literacy rates in the Caribbean, highest CXC passes. And I did mention that if we're able as a nation to change the perception of our CCIs, amplifying their positive outcomes, behaviors that are antisocial will be reduced in the population, therefore reducing crime. Now, there's one thing I don't like. I don't like to be misquoted. Now, last week in the match, we spoke of corruption in relation to policing. Trust and confidence is low in relation to policing. and the government. The Don Anderson poll was quoted. Several researchers were quoted, like the Caribbean Victimization Study, that stated that 81% of the Jamaican population did not have confidence or trust in the police force, as well as lawyers, judges, MOCA, and other organizations. Do not misstate what I said. That is slander. As a matter of fact, I feel as if I'm emotionally distressed by the misinterpretations of my statements earlier. Now, as the opposition, we stated that a centralized, unified brand is able to amplify our CCIs. Thus, the government will take leverage. Our national brand index is low. Amplifying the CCIs will improve that. We said identification, registration, and monetization of all products equals greater partnership for the country. We gave examples such as Korea. We gave examples that there is a national cultural policy who all these so-called organizations that opposition wants to make look like exist individually currently are a part of. Now, Jamaica's intellectual and copyrights agencies have been providing enough resources to deal with the copyrights that they spoke about. Oh, if I download a song, should I go to prison? That is not the focus. The focus here is not the policies. The focus here is that the government must amplify, take leverage to build strength, reputation of the nation must be amplified through investments, further investments. Though my opponents listed our investments, I agree, but note this, we wish to amplify, not to say, we've done enough, so let us just walk away and let the private sector deal with it. Our citizens matter. Their access points and entry points matter. And as the government, we are giving them greater access through public and private partnership. I rest my case.
Thank you, thank you, proposition reply speaker, and thank you to our debaters.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us give another round of applause to Victoria Jubilee Hospital and the Passport and Citizenship Agency, Immigration and Citizenship Agency. They have debated and presented very passionate and compelling arguments for the moods. Jamaica's cultural and creative industries have been estimated to generate $2.2 billion annually. Be it resolved that the government of Jamaica should take the lead in doing more to leverage Brand Jamaica. We have heard the arguments, and now the judges will deliberate, and we will use that time to refresh ourselves. The next person from which you will hear is the chief adjudicator, who will sum up the match and announce the winner. For those of you online, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Thank you, everyone. So we saw an interesting debate a while ago, and I think it was a consensus from the panel that it was a good debate. The arguments generally were engaging. However, there were some deficiencies that I will point to that would have not augured well for the teams and ultimately would have resulted in one team losing the fight against the other team. It's important that we take into account what the motion or the mote says. And I want to read it. It says, the government of Jamaica should take the lead in doing more to leverage Brand Jamaica. We heard an idea from opposition that government has not been effective over the last 27 years. So government had this sort of leadership role to play, and government clearly was derelict, clearly was ineffective in the execution of that leadership in leveraging Brand Jamaica. So against that background, they contend that the ineffectiveness over the 27 years is a basis for government not taking a more leading role. The panel didn't think that that was a convincing position to take, in as much as the mote itself already identifies and establishes that there has to be more. The fact that the mote says more is to be done indicates that whatever currently has been done or has been done was inadequate. So to point to the fact that it was inadequate is not a sufficient basis on which to say government should not take a leading role now, or more of a leading role now. When we look at what we got out of proposition beautifully contextualized the debate by providing us with the understanding that there has to be a coordinated, unified approach in leveraging Brand Jamaica. They pointed to what is problematic in the status quo, and it's this sort of ad hoc, fragmented, disjointed approach that is taken in leveraging Brand Jamaica. They pointed out that a unified approach serves best in leveraging our brand. So against that background, a fundamental question that is to be answered in this debate is which actor is the best actor in leading this unified approach? And it was a consensus from the panel that the proposition team would have more convincingly outlined which actor should be the best, or why government, in essence, their case, should be the best actor. So what we heard out of proposition is the argument that there are some fundamental things that have to be done for us to garner the full benefit of leveraging Brand Jamaica. They spoke to the fact that there needs to be a sort of cultural shift, a mindset change in essence, and that a government is best able to lead this particular change. However, we thought that that argument could have been contested by government, by opposition, albeit the lack of contestation to that idea at the end of the debate left that argument standing. We also thought that the burden on opposition to prove why is it that if government were to take more of a leading role, then we essentially would still not have a more significant leveraging of the brand. So there needed to be a burden as to why is it that a burden has to be proved that if government were to do more now, there wouldn't be any significant change in the leveraging of Brand Jamaica. We heard also other interesting ideas in the debate from proposition that were not responded to from opposition. Proposition articulated this idea that governments are elected by the people, and the people's will is expressed through the government. So against that background, proposition articulated that it is legitimate for government to be this leading actor acting on the will of the people through the very election that it has been elected to office to lead this sort of leveraging of the Brand Jamaica rather than the sort of individual disjointed approach that would be taking place in opposition's world. We thought that arguments that could have aided opposition in advancing over prop came a bit too late in the debate. So the arguments about government's ineffectiveness and government essentially being inept were highlighted in first opposition speech. But then there has to be, as outlined in the training, a development of that argument in showing the panel how government's effectiveness would still be present when we have them doing more in leveraging Brand Jamaica. And then down in the latter part of the reply speech, we also heard a sort of beautiful idea about the personal responsibility that each Jamaican should play, etc., albeit we didn't get development of that sort of argument. So at the end, we didn't think that the case presented by opposition was sufficient enough to trump proposition's case. And the panel is here for question and for feedback, but ladies and gentlemen, the winner of this debate is Team Proposition. And the panel thought that the best speaker from the proposition, or in the entire debate, is also from the proposition team, and that would be the first proposition speaker. And just for full transparency, ending on 225 points would be the team from Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency, and winning on 232 points is the Victoria Jubilee Hospital. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to this debate, and please follow the Transformation Implementation Unit on all their social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.